I bet you thought that was a cannonball, didn't you? I certainly did, but it's not. Bummer. Well, we might actually have a cannonball down here. Take a look at this. It's ringing up right around 40, 38, and it sounds like it's big enough to be a cannonball. The water's really murky here, so I don't know if we'll be able to get any underwater shots. I'm going to probe, but I'm going to probe down with my magnet and see if I can get a hold of it. Let's see. Somewhere. Oh, there, I got something. Oh yeah, that's whatever it is really solid, and it's not wanting to come up. It's fused to the bottom. So let's dive down with the camera and see if we can at least see it.
It's really embedded in the bottom, so I'm going to turn the camera off and try to work it loose. When I get it loose, I'll turn the camera back on and we'll take a look.
Well, I got it loose and I got it on the magnet. I haven't pulled it up yet, but it feels like it's about the right weight. Yes, indeed. Look at that. That's a 6-pounder. Oh, it's a shell too. There's a fuse hole. I guess it was probably not a Borman. I guess it had a wooden plug in it or something. Awesome. First shell of the year. Well, I haven't been finding anything else since I found the little 6-pound shell. So I thought I'd take a break, come up here on the bank, and knock some of the crud off this thing so we get a better look at it. Take a look. Looks more like a cannonball now, huh? This stuff came off pretty easy. I think I lost it. There we go. Here's some pieces of it. It's just a amalgam of the iron that leaches out of the shell and the gravel and stuff in the bottom. Alright, well, put it back in the boat and get back to digging. Well, just found a couple bullets. Over up on the bank, there's a washed out bank over to my right here, and it had a nice hard clay bottom, so I thought maybe some stuff would have washed out of the bank from the fighting that occurred here, and it looks like it has. That might be case shot. Can't make out what that one is, but it's 3-ringer obviously. That's a 3-ringer there, and that's a 3-ringer. Good, yeah. So here are all the finds for the day. I think I lost one of the bullets that I found while I was diving down after another relic. So I only have 4. I'm pretty sure I had 5. And we found this nice little 6-pounder, and I guess this was Borman fused, but the fuse appears to have been rotted away. I've never seen one do that in the water. They usually hold up well in the water, but it's just about gone. So this will have to be drilled. And then we'll run electrolysis on it and hot wax treat it. I think there's a good chance there's a few more shells there in that area, but the water was really deep, and this one, I was in water almost up to my neck, and it was really hard to get out because when you have to dive down that deep to dig it out, it was really embedded in the bottom. It should go down another 10 inches or so over the next week, so I'll probably get back up there in a week or so and see if we can find some more. It's the next day. I'm going to a new spot, a place I haven't been before. I want to go back to where we were yesterday to
because I'm pretty sure there's going to be more cannonballs there. There almost has to be. But right now the water's still too high and too murky. But right now I'm heading up to a spot that I've never been before. Researched it over the winter. There was a small Civil War skirmish here. And there might even be some colonial era relics in this area. I'm not sure about that, but there might be. So let's get it. You see the snake? I believe that's a northern water snake. Harmless. Okay folks, we're on the board. We have one severely smashed, flattened out Civil War bullet. So it's obviously fired. Usually when you find these in the water, if they've been in the water the entire time, they don't turn white, they stay gray. But I believe this one probably washed out of this bank here. There's been a lot of erosion this spring. So maybe we've hit a spot here. I have another signal I want you to listen to. Sounds like another bullet. There it is. There it is. It's reading like a bullet. So I'm going to put this one back in my boat. And then we'll recover this one that, actually I can just put it in my pouch here. Alright. I'm just going to kick the silt away with my foot first here and see if I can spot it on the bottom. We're right on bedrock here, so there's not very much mud and silt on top of the stuff. I see something white down there. Oh, I think that's a bullet.
Here we go.
There it is. It's a fired 3-ringer, and there's a little 22 bullet in there, which is probably modern. And that little piece of buckshot could be from the Civil War. Kind of hard to tell, though. Alright, that's 2. Let's keep at it.
I think we got another one.
Yeah, I think that's a bullet. Really smashed, but I'm going to call it a bullet. I think I see the rings right there. Okay, it sounds like one. Right there in the clay. Let's see if we can dig it out with the pick. Don't want to mar it if it is a bullet. See if that got it. Nope. There's something in there. Should be my gloved hand, shouldn't I? I think I see something like that. Yeah. just a little musket ball, pistol ball or something. Huh. Alright, we'll count that.
Back at it.
I think that's an old padlock there. Check this out. That's awesome. Yeah, that's an old one. Nice. Pretty cool, huh? You can see how these banks have really been eroded by the spring flooding this year, and that's why I'm finding stuff in the water here. That padlock came from right here. I'm sure it washed out from that there. Look at all the exposed roots. So I'm going to keep on working my way up this bank and hope some more stuff has fallen out. I just found this thing, and I'm not sure, but it almost looks like a broken off piece of an artillery worm. You guys know what that is? Looks like maybe it was used. I have no idea. It looks like an artillery worm. I'm going to keep it just in case it is. It's hand forged. Okay, back at it. Well, we didn't set the world on fire or anything, but we did find a couple things from the Civil War and from that era. Take a look. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullets, definitely from the Civil War. A couple other smaller balls there. Could be pistol bullets or something. Little fishing weight, and this big iron padlock. I guess it had to do with the railroad. We are near a railroad here. And there's a maker's mark on the I forget what you call the cover, the keyhole cover, but if I can get it to focus, you might be able to read that maker's mark. Can you read that? I can't read it. No artillery shells, but there's always tomorrow. Kind of glad he's going to the other side. Okay, back to relic hunting. Well, I'm starting to find some stuff that looks old. This looks like I believe this is a mule shoe, judging by the shape of it. And this looks like, I guess this is solid iron. I thought it was an artillery shell when I swung the coil over it. I guess it's part of an add iron to a fireplace or something, but it looks pretty old. Interesting. Check this out. That's a stirrup. I just pulled it out of the ground and laid it right where I found it, but check it out, man. It's I don't know if that's military or not, but it kind of looks like it's pretty heavy duty. Didn't even need a metal detector. It's got a lot of crust stuff to it, but that stuff will come off. A little tap of a hammer and some electrolysis. I think that's going to be a nice piece. I haven't found any like that. I'm going to keep scanning along here and without a metal detector, just eyeballing stuff and see what else comes out of the bank. I really thought that was an artillery shell sticking out of the bank. Look at that. Just about the right size, but nope. Tin can. What the heck did I just find? This thing is 6 or 7 feet long and it's solid iron. And look at the head on it. I know there were never any whales in this river. Now you tell me what the heck this is. Looks like a harpoon for whales or something. kind of want to keep it, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it along this bank. I'm working my way upstream right now. I'm going to lay it along this bank, and then on my way back down, I'll decide whether or not I want to pick it up. That is bizarre. Well, if you've never seen a leech before, this is what they look like. That's a leech, folks. Nasty. There's something down here. There we go. Kind of a mixed signal, but it sounds like something. Let's see. Hey, not too bad. That is a 58 caliber 3-ring mini ball, and I believe that's drop. It's a Civil War bullet. It has not been fired. Let's get you in focus. I think it's in focus. Well, that's a good start. That means somebody was here, huh? Well, I've been hunting here all day, and I haven't found any. Well, I found one bullet, and a bunch of trash, and not a whole lot else. This is one of the spots that were really far down on my priority list as far as places to look for Civil War relic, but all the rivers, almost all the rivers in my area are high right now because the rains have been terrible. It's been raining all summer. The rivers have been high, but this particular river, creek, is actually at about normal level, and it's pretty clear. As you can see, I'm in about 4 feet of water here, and I think I may have just found a cannonball. Check this out. Reading right about 40 on the meter, 39 or 40, and I can see it down there. It looks like it's probably a 12-pounder. That's what she is. And I can't tell if it's a solid shot or not. Well, that's what she is. Oh, it's not a solid shot. It's a Borman. Look at that. Beautiful Borman fuse. Alright. Now, I was going to stop for the day, but I think I'm going to poke around just a little bit more right in this general area. It's getting late, and it looks like a storm might be coming, but I'm going to poke around here for about 10 or 15 more minutes. But I got to get going. But now I know that this could potentially be a good, not potentially, this is a good spot. Hopefully there's more stuff here. Awesome. And the fuse doesn't even look like it's punched. So it's either not fired or this uses a solid shot. Well, I hunted that spot for another 15 or 20 minutes or so. I didn't find anything else after that shell. And I had to get out of there. It was getting late, and I needed to be back. So I'm going to be heading back down there, though, soon. So here's the shell. Looking a little crusty right now. 12-pound Borman. There's the fuse. So as you can see, the fuse is not punched. At least it doesn't look like it. There were second markings on here. I can't really see them right now. It's kind of cruddy. It could be braille. They made braille fuses for nighttime firing, but they're marked in seconds, 1 through 5. It's, I believe, 1 second here, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5. And they would punch a hole at whatever mark they wanted for however long they wanted it to burn. Like number 4 is here. They'd punch a hole right there, and then when the gun fired, the muzzle flash, the fire from the cannon would come around the ball and enter that hole and ignite that powder, and it would burn around this chamber. And then there's a hole in the center that it would flash down through and ignite the gunpowder inside the shell, causing it to explode. But this one doesn't look punched. I don't know if it was fired as a solid shot in order to just bash something, or if it just were discarded in the river. I don't know. I really no way to tell. But anyway, before it gets too dark out here, I'm going to get it to lie on the fuse. Where's the fuse? There it is. Flat. I'm going to knock off this. It's really hard to whack on this thing with a hammer and hold the camera at the same time, but just to show you, this is what's happening here. I'm knocking this this crusty stuff off of there. And it'll make the electrolysis process easier, and it'll make it easier for my guy to drill it out. So I'll just keep doing this. There you see some coming off. There we go. It's coming loose now. But it's going to roll off here if I keep trying to do it with one hand, so I'm going to have to turn the camera off. Since we're talking about Borman shells, I thought I'd lay some stuff out here and show you a little bit more about how they were made and how they worked. Here are a few Borman fuses that I found from shells that have exploded. This is the best example because it's pretty much intact. And I think this is a Confederate one because of the style of the numbers, especially the number 2 there. I saw that in the book somewhere, I can't remember where, so don't quote me on it. But you can see it's clearly been punched at, I guess, about 4.5 seconds, something like that. This hole, I think, is just blow through, just from when the shell exploded, because it wouldn't make any sense to punch it there. Oh, it's less than a second. That would be ugly. Besides, it's not a spot where you're supposed to punch it that's thicker there. These two didn't fare as well. These came out of the water, but you can see how thin the actual the metal is. It's just a sort of it's just a train for the powder to travel through. No way to tell where they were punched at, either one of these. These two both came from the same place. This one came from a farm. This was a land find. But this is a little 6-pounder that we found that you saw earlier in the video, and it's been all cleaned up. It's been deactivated. You can see there's a hole here. Powder's been flushed out with high pressure water, and it is safe. As a matter of fact, listen, you can hear the case shot balls rolling around in there. You might be able to see it if I get it at the right angle here. I might be able to see them a little bit, maybe not. Anyway. The reason those balls are rolling around loosely in there now is because I've run it through a hot wax process to preserve the iron. And in that process, the sulfur, because it melts at a low temperature, it melts and just kind of floats out of the shell and into the wax. So the only thing left inside of there is the actual lead balls. The sulfur's all gone, so there's nothing to hold them in place. They're just rolling around in there now. So when these things were manufactured, they were cast in a foundry out of cast iron, and they had to be loaded up somehow. So there was no fuse in them, and there was this underplug was not there. So you got an opening that's probably about close to 1 inch wide. Yeah, it's probably 7/8 of an inch wide anyway. So that was a big enough opening for them to pour in all the lead case shot balls, they're basically musket balls. So they fill this thing up with lead balls to act as shrapnel, so that when the shell explodes, it sprays these balls into the enemy soldiers. It's an anti-personnel weapon. So after they fill it up with lead balls, they pour in molten sulfur, and the sulfur acts to just hold the balls in place. If you were to pour the K-shot balls in and the gunpowder in without some way of holding those balls in place, the powder and the shot would all mix together, and it would probably still explode, but it wouldn't work the way that it's supposed to. The idea is to have that gunpowder charge in the dead center and the shrapnel out surrounding it, so that when it explodes it maximizes the force and the spread of those of that shrapnel. After they pour the molten sulfur in, they wait for it to cool, and when it cools, remember this plug isn't in. When it cools, they drill a cavity down through the center. They drill that cavity down in there, so then they have a cylindrical cavity, and that's where they pour the gunpowder. So that sulfur holds all those balls in place, and there's a nice cylindrical cavity in the center that's full of gunpowder. Then they put the underplug on top, and I guess that serves two purposes. Number one, it keeps the powder from falling out before the fuse is put in place. And number two, I would imagine that it helps hold the pressure from the explosion inside the ball rather than just having it blow through the fuse. Otherwise, if you just had this big opening here in that powder charge, when it exploded, this thin zinc fuse would just blow through, and the shell probably wouldn't even explode. It would probably just blow the fuse out, and that would be it. So the underplug, I'm pretty sure, served to contain that pressure so that it would explode the entire ball. And of course, the fuse was screwed in. I can't quite make this one go in because of the corrosion, but you can see how it's supposed to sit down in there. Of course, it's threaded, and the shell is threaded. You can see that. This one was found without the fuse, so I don't know if the fuse just got knocked out on impact or if it was fired without a fuse altogether. I can't imagine they would do that, because if there were gunpowder in there and this hole were open like this, the ball would probably explode inside the cannon barrel because of all the fire that's coming around the ball as it's being fired. It would probably explode in the barrel, or right as it's leaving the muzzle, which would be even worse for the men standing around the gun, I would imagine. So yeah, that's how the Borman shell worked.